You go on the outside. I'm gonna be giving the presentation and talking from here. So being at the action point, you'll be closer to the action, way closer to you. Alright, I'm gonna start on tonight, finish early, guys, so I have 6:30, everybody else have 6:30? It's time to get started. So this is a board work session, so we're gonna call this meeting to order. Chair Adley is gonna do that. We're gonna do the pledge of allegiance, and then I'm gonna get into my agenda.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And then I'm going to ask you to stand with us to do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, people, thank you all for being here tonight. I can't think of anything better to do on a Wednesday night. Very winter weather, actually, if I got some weather, no, I'm just kidding. I know that you all have a lot to do, probably more important stuff than this, but this really is important work. And what we're gonna talk about today really is talking about an opportunity for the Glide School District and the Glide community. We have a little window, I'm gonna talk more about this later, but we have a window of opportunity to do some really great things at minimal impact to taxpayers. And this window will disappear, and if we miss this opportunity, we won't have this, it won't come along again, so. Tonight, I'm going to try not to scare you with my mic. Tonight, I'm gonna disseminate some information. I'm gonna ask for you to give some input, but please know that this is a long process. We're actually a long ways away from making any major decisions on what could be put in front of the voters for a bond. But that runway will come to an end and we need to prepare, and this is just something. So you guys are my initial group. We're gonna meet several times. You'll have lots of opportunity for input. I'm an open door person, and if you ever have any questions, you're always welcome to call me or come in and talk to me. On those lines, not everybody in this room knows me. I'm Robert Freeman, I'm your superintendent. This is my third year in the district, and just really appreciate that my career found Glide. So thank you all for having me. Okay, next slide. Oh, there's 3 screens. If you can see, hopefully you have an angle at one of them. These are the slides that I'm using to go through this presentation. Okay, look at that. Worked. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little history because we're gonna start. This journey started 20 years ago, actually 21 years ago, 2006. But in 2007, Glide voters passed a bond levy at $1.08 per thousand to fund the bond for the Glide School District. That bond did lots of things. That bond was used to build the Helix Hall, which is the library and science room at the high school. It replaced the roof at the elementary and high school, roofs, I should say. It helped fund an elementary playground project. It relocated the middle school library in the main building. Paid for new high school bleachers. It helped pay for a new gym floor. It renovated gym bathrooms and locker room facilities. It replaced the high school band room windows and coverings. It retiled the cafeteria and innovated cafeteria bathrooms. It renovated science rooms, which were in where the Ox gym is now. I'll get to that in a little bit. Fire. And then it replaced all the windows and frames at the high school. So as you can see, the 2007 bond built one new building, and the rest was used for renovation or upkeep. Since that time, the United School District has done a great job keeping its facilities in pretty good shape. Where we're at a point now, I should back up. And we used our ESSER funds that we got from the federal government to upgrade our HVAC and our mechanical systems to where now, 20 years after the initial bond in 2007, we're in a position to build new structure. We don't have to generate funds to put towards our old buildings, because they're in good shape. Okay. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so this is my 39th year in education, and just when you think you know everything, something comes along, like your bosses say, Robert, I need you to lead the district in a bond levy campaign. I've never done a bond levy campaign, so I went to school and went to this conference, and there were some key points that I learned. And I'm just going to highlight these real quick, so you know what tenets that are on the video. Next slide. The best shot for success. There's certain things that happen. The first one is to be proactive and ask voters for a leveling or continuation law. That's where the United School District is. This is an opportunity, like I talked about earlier, that has a window of opportunity. It will close if we let this opportunity pass by. It's an opportunity to make a tremendous impact on the future students in the United School District at really a minimal or no cost to taxpayers. And I'm going to get into exactly what that means. I learned that the board of directors need to be 100% on board, and I should probably introduce the board that's here. We have the majority of the board here tonight. One is when she had another commitment. Director Holland, she'll be here when she's going back to the meeting. Each campus must benefit. So your best shot at passing it on is if somebody gets something. So you're going to see tonight, we're going to talk about something at each campus, including the athletic complex. My commitment to you is clear transparency and clear communication. You have to have that. You, as a voter, need to believe in the district and trust that what we're asking the voters to fund is something that is important. It's going to make a difference for students. In 2007, I wasn't here, but everybody I talked to talks about how when that bond was passed, there was the communication dropped off. You weren't made aware of projects that were happening and things, the construction and stuff that was going on. My commitment to you is clear, rapid, transparent communication from today past when we pass this law. So we'll have a dedicated website that has everything we do on that site, and once we pass it on, it'll also be a post-bond website communicating with the public where we're at with the projects. As evident tonight, I pledge to you that you will have multiple opportunities to give input and feel like you have a say in the things that we put forward to the taxpayers. What I need from you is that you understand the why behind what we're doing. So when your family or friends come up to you and say, hey, do you know anything about this bond proposal? How should I vote? I need you to be able to have that information to share where they can make an educated vote if they can pass it. The projects that I'm proposing tonight all have minimal impact on the daily educational process. And I think that's important because when you build something, often you have to relocate or redistribute a group of people. And so it impacts their education. The projects I'm gonna put forth tonight, all can be done without disrupting the everyday flow of school. Next slide. All right, let's up to this part. Next slide. Okay, the board of directors, those are my bosses, directed me to prepare the district for bond levy. We have settled on the November of 26 election, so that gives us this year as we're going. The other opportunity would be May of 27. That would give us a longer runway, but it also only gives us one shot at passing the law. And remember, I talked to you about that window. If by May of 27, if we don't pass bond, then there will be a gap and taxpayers will see a break in their taxes. And then we will be asking for a full impact of a law. I'm gonna get to some numbers in a little bit. You can see exactly what I'm talking about with that. So I engaged with a company that's called Piper Sandler. They are a bond obligation company, and they work with the majority of schools in the state of Oregon. I think they said like 98% of them. Super knowledgeable, they understand the process. Their job is to determine what levy rate that exists and what that will generate money wise. And so the numbers that I'm going to give you generated through their company. And then where they make their money, it's not on the front end, it's on the back end. If we pass it on, that's who we would hire to sell our bonds to generate the funds to do our capital improvement projects. The district also applied for and received state facilities TAP grant for facility assessments. So we engaged with a company called Pivot Architect, and they conducted 2 facility assessments. And what that did is not only give us really good data on where our facilities are and what the projects would enhance our educational experience, but it also set us up to be eligible for a crossing grant, which is an action grant. I'll talk about that in a little bit. We use those facilities assessment results to build the first run at projects. So if you're wondering where the projects came from, it came out of these facility assessments. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But basically, they came in, they surveyed all of our buildings, our property, they surveyed our staff, and some of our students to come up with their report. So this is where we get to talk about money a little bit. Generally, how this is backwards. Generally, you want to go out to the public and talk about needs and projects and stuff. But the reality is the bond's only going to produce so much money. So it's, in my mind, it was kind of a waste of time to talk, not a waste of time. It was futile to go out and have everybody do a wish list with these big projects. An example of that is one of the #1 things that came out of that survey from staff and students was they want dedicated middle school, so the old middle school back, which is awesome. Until you look at what the price would be. So, as the leader of your district, I would advocate for a new middle school, but I'd only advocate for it as if you move 6th grade to the middle school and have 6th, 7th, 8th grade middle school. So that's about 150 students. The cost of tearing down the middle school and building a new facility that would house 150 students is right at $65 million. I'm going to tell you what the impact of that is here for them. But my guess is that the voters statewide won't tolerate a bond levy rate that would allow us to generate $65 million. Then if we did that, that would be the only project we could do. So I know you're gonna keep her, so I asked people, community members, I guess I should say that I talked with business owners, community members. Overwhelmingly, that was the first thing people want, board members. So I said, well, so what is it about the dedicated all middle school that has intrigued you to you? Some answers were, well, that's the way it was when I went through school. Legit. Middle schoolers are at that age where they need their own identity, their own space. Gotcha. We don't want them around older kids, you have bad habits. News alert, middle school kids have bad habits already. Okay, that list goes on. So I took those tenants. Okay, how could we meet those tenants, but not build a whole new middle school? And you'll see on one of our projects that we're proposing. Okay, let's get to some numbers, and then I'll get to why I don't think the builders will tolerate building those. Next page, please. Okay, in 2007, the voters passed a bond for $1.08 per thousand. Assessed value. I want to be really clear that you walk out of here understanding the difference between assessed value and market value. Assessed value is what you see on your tax slip that you get from the county, and that's generally quite a bit lower than what your market value is. As a matter of fact, the rule of thumb is, I want to say it's about 65% of what the market value is. So $400,000 assessed value would mean that you have a market value of about $650,000. Well, that's the difference. So what we're talking about is assessed value, and that's what you get taxed on. In 2007, you passed it for $1.08. If we went out again and for $1.08, that would generate about $19 million. Okay, remember what I said middle school would cost? In order to get to that kind of money, it would be right under $5 per harvest. And that would be an additional $400,000 piece of property. That would be an additional $2,000 every year for 20 years. I'm not very smart, but I think I can guess what taxpayer would say something like that. That's why I went down the path of, okay, what tenants are you looking for the new middle school? Over the period of a bond, your property value goes up. But only 1 year in the history of Oregon, actually, I'll just take it to Glide. There's only 1 year in the history of Glide where that wasn't true. It actually went down a little bit. But every year, in 20 years, your property value went up, which means that the bond rate goes down. That's the mechanics. So currently, you're paying 91 cents per thousand in tax rate. If you look at your tax that you just got from the county, you'll see that the bond rate for the Glide School District is 91 cents. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to explain to you what the difference between those two are. And I was kind of hoping tonight to get a feel, excuse me, as taxpayers, what the tolerance level would be between the 91 cents and the $1.08. And I'll get into more specifics about that. Okay, everybody understand those two numbers? So at 91 cents, it would be zero financial impact. It would stay the same. At $1.08, you would have a slight increase on impact on your taxes. The same mechanics would kick in that kicked in 20 years ago. As property value continues to rise, that bond rate would go down over time. Okay, next slide, please. No. All right, this slide just kind of details the cost for 100,000 assessed value. And I put it at 100,000 because you know how much about what your assessed value is, and then you can do the math from there. So at $100,000 at 91 cents, that equals $91 a year in taxes. At $100,000 at $1.08 is That should be 100, sorry, I put a decimal in the spot. Is $108 a year. The difference between those two numbers is $17. So again, you would figure out if you had, I did some quick math here. If you had a $300,000 assessed value of land, then you would times 3 by 17, and the difference between 91 cents and $1.08 would be $51 a year. 350,000, 3.5 times 17 be 59.5, and then 400,000 times it by 4, the difference would be $68 a year. Understand the math? That difference is what the impact would be versus going where the current rate is, went back to the 2007 rate of our rate of 20 years. So I know, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know very many things that have stayed the same over 20 years, or not raised, rose in cost. I think if we stayed at that $1.08, that'd be pretty cool. Okay, next one, Austin rate. Okay, Austin is an acronym that stands for Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Grant. This legislation put this in several years ago. That was great. If we pass it on, I qualify for $6.1 million. Here's the problem with that. So that's a matching grant. So our bond would have to be at least $6.1 million, which we're talking about being more than that. But the only way you have access to that fund is by passing it along. And passing along in rural communities is really difficult. My experience in Glide has always been different than you all can follow the term, and so I'm hoping that we have a positive experience. But $6.1 million to a small school district like Glide would be life-changing. I think all school districts should have access to that fund without passing on it. Okay, that's my soapbox, I'll get off. We're eligible for that match, so anything that we go for and we pass, you can add $6.1 million on that. So I think I talked about 16 million and 19 million. That, and then the 6.1 is an additional. All right, let's get into some facilities assessments, identify some problems. So 2 slides, please. There we go. Okay, on the oh, and by the way, some of these slides are a little bit outdated. We've actually not this one, but some of them we've actually different new information. Okay, the elementary campus. One of the things that really came out of that report was the lack of space for instructional practices to happen. So one of the things that was identified is that every single classroom on this facility is being utilized. So if we were to grow, or if we had a need for a classroom, we would have to combine some classes or relocate another class. There's nowhere to grow in this facility. Second thing that came out of that report was that you're in the only gym that this facility has. So when kids eat breakfast or lunch, our PE kids can't be in here. So they have to be under the play shed outside. I know Glide kids are really tough. Appreciate that about Glide. But it would be nice if they had their own facility to have to eat. The other thing that came out, which is a sidebar, was that the limited gym space in the community of Glide, that you have elementary students participating in extracurricular activities, wrestling, volleyball, basketball, dance, cheer, that use this facility till wee hours of the night. So we have young kids that are practicing till 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. A lot of you know this because your kid goes home and then going home and getting up early to go to school. Having another facility would help alleviate some of that pressure. Hopefully we get kids home from there. The other thing that came out is a safety and security measure that this campus is wide open. And school districts around the state are really being encouraged to have a single entry vestibule where people, one entry exit point. And that was another thing that came out of that report. All right, next slide, please. The high school and middle school, these projects have evolved and actually even evolved today. So there was a lot of confusion in 2007 about a dedicated wrestling facility for the community. I've researched that. I think I found where the breakdown in communication was, and it had to do with meetings like this, where people would talk about a bond and talk about projects. And then when it came time for the bond, people had those projects in their head. So remember, tonight we're talking about long-range facility planning, not necessarily the bond. We'll get to that later. But these are initial discussions about what could a capital improvement bond produce for the district. I'm trying to find the exact wording that came out to you guys, but in all my notes and superintendent's office, there's nothing that references on that room. So remember, I told you earlier that I promised clear, accurate, transparent information. I'm going to give you what I know. So, and we're going to do better at that. So back to the middle school. Why do you want to go to school? So in order to meet some of the tenets of what voters said, we're proposing an 8,000 square foot middle school building dedicated just to middle school. It would have an entryway, a foyer, single stall bathrooms, and 4 classrooms. The middle schoolers would call their building. It would be on the high school campus. It would be where currently the district office and the IT modulars set. We would relocate those 2 entities and build a structure there. And then this is where the new information came. We first talked about using the contour of the land towards Alexander Lane to build a structure underneath that building that was dedicated to an athletic room that didn't require the entire space in the gym, so a mat room or a place for cheerleading or dance. But since talking to the architect, he recognized there's enough space there to make it a single level building that houses your middle school, and then another building that is your faculty on that same level. It's cheaper, and we avoid things like elevator or ADA restrictions. So we're going to continue to look into that. But that will be at the high school middle school. Next page. Okay, in reviewing our athletic field complex, it was determined that we have a great athletic field complex. That our concessions building and restrooms are outdated, and we don't have enough restrooms to meet the need of that area. And we don't have storage or facility for our programs to meet their need. So, in our community, South Law, they just built a 100 by 100 steel building. Raise your hand if you've been to that building. Anybody? Phenomenal building. I was just there today. Our leadership team built it today. It's on the inside. There's 6 full batting cages in there. They can run football practice in there in the fall time when it's smoky. They brought wrestling mats into that facility to do wrestling. It's incredible for a really minimal cost. But a facility like that would enhance our athletic complex along with renovating our current concession area and our bathrooms and closing in the backside of that building for storage. Oh, the other piece of that too is currently our visiting teams that come, whether it's whatever, they don't have a place at halftime to go. So like our football, program. The visiting team hangs out behind the bleachers, behind the grilling fest in the weather, they're half that. It's kind of embarrassing. We can do better. So facility like this will allow for visiting team to have a place. That one actually is pretty minimal cost. So. Okay, next slide. So we recap the projects that we're going to put in front of you to discuss tonight. Is a new middle school building with an addition off of it or a lack of a better term, that room that could be used during the day by middle school and then after school by extracurricular activities. A new elementary building complex to help with need of lab classroom space to grow. Talk to you, I just mentioned that we're relocating the district office and IT. We would move that into that building. Currently in this building, we should have a little filter. I'll do that next. They have a makeshift staff room here, and they really don't have staff bathrooms. So that would allow that facility would allow for that. We upgrade the current field house. Like I said, close in the south end, remodel the bathrooms where it wouldn't have male and female bathrooms. We just have single entry bathrooms. And then add 2 other single entry bathrooms on 2 different locations around the athletic complex. And then that athletic field house that I just talked about. I have pictures of that, so after the meeting, if you want to see what that looks like, it's pretty awesome. I have on here upgrading the parking surface at the main bus barn. We discussed that, and that's really something the district should do out of their general fund budgets, that we should put money away every year to do that, so I should have struck that off of there. So the 3 major ones are sort of just present. Okay, I got the voice back and relaxed a little bit, so I threw a lot of information at you. The next step is what I'm going to have you do at your table. Is I'm going to actually have you work in your small group on your back table. And I want you to go through each of these projects. Talk about it at your table. There's going to be an area on your handouts that talks about pros, cons, anything we didn't think about, something we should think about. And then it'll also be a blank sheet that if there's any other projects you want us to think about or consider, love your feedback on it. I also on your table, you have a card that if you have any questions, any burning desires after this, if you want me to personally follow up with you, just leave your name and your number and I will call you back and give you that information. Okay, before we hand out the handouts, super quick, I'm doing good. Super quick Q&A. Any burning questions, any clarifying questions? I went through stuff very, very fast. Sam? Let me answer to that. I can look into that and get back to you. So did you catch that, Jim? The max cap on the assessed value. So is there a certain max where you don't get taxed on that anymore? Is that what you're asking? I don't know the answer. I'm not in that range. So. Yes.
Yeah, Jeff Brown here.
Hey, John.
On our regular school funding, you know, I think it's somewhere around $4.50 to $5 out. Just applied to you know, how much of that is our budget is allocated for capital things?
I don't understand school fund. That's a really good question. Thanks for asking that. So let me just give you a real quick, people teach this entire class on the Oregon State School Fund, how schools in Oregon are funded. It's very complex. So you pay taxes to the state of Oregon every year. Legislation decides how much money goes to education. Every year you hear the governor talk about how much they're going to put aside for schools. We get a portion of that based on how many students we have in the school. And then there's other factors in there, and that's called our state school fund. That amount of money is what is put into the general fund, and every year we have to have a balanced budget, how we spend it. Almost every school in the state of Oregon They spend about 80% of that on staffing. So 80% goes to people who work directly with kids. That doesn't leave very much money for capital improvement projects. As a matter of fact, you can't build something significant using the state school fund. Glide has done a really good job of maintaining and doing upkeep. With that, what's left over, 20%. Remember that 20% that also pays for your utility costs, fuel for our buses. We try to our buses we put on a cycle where we try to buy a new bus every so often, so our fleet stays at high quality. All that comes out of that 20%. So the only way districts, schools can build facilities like what we just talked about is through a capital improvement plan. And so when I talk about a window, that's what we're talking about. Did that answer your question? Yes. Yes, sir.
So, some of the middle school gyms, middle school buildings have 4 classrooms.
Yeah.
Currently, what the middle school uses is more than 4 classrooms though.
Yeah.
How is that?
So we would work with building principal and prioritize which work classes we go with that building.
But then they still share certain spaces.
Right. Yeah, so I didn't really get into this at the time, but there's a lot of benefit from middle school and on the high school campus. I get the reason why everybody wants their own dedicated middle school. I was a middle school teacher for 14 years, so I understand that. But our kids have access to all ranges of teachers and classes. So kids that are doing upper division, upper level classes have earlier access to that. They have access to our STEM classes, so our wood shop, metal shop, FFA, things like that. They just wouldn't have access to that if they were back on campus, back at the old middle school. So lots of benefits to being on campus. Our principal does a really good job with scheduling that really our middle school kids do not interact with our high school kids before school and after school, but during the day, they don't even see each other. Any other clarifying questions? Yes.
So I have a question, kind of, maybe you're waiting till later, just looking at these projects, don't let me know, securing a single point of entry at the elementary school, that's what are we talking, hundreds of thousands, if that, dollars, fencing wise. Whereas some of these projects, we're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so just what's kind of the price point in some of these for?
Yeah, so I'm really hesitant to do that until I know for sure what the extent of the project, but I can kind of tell you roughly. So the elementary building complex that includes the gymnasium and has a full-size court, 2 smaller courts, that run side to side, bleachers. Obviously, extended space, and you put mats and stuff in for wrestling. An addition off to the 2-story addition off of that building, that would have 4 classrooms, 3 classrooms, a teacher room, bathrooms we talked about, and house the district office and IT department is right under $15 million. The 8,000 square foot building that we talked about at the high school, middle school is right at $4 million. That's without the addition of the extra mat room. I don't have the figures on that yet. The upgrading the athletic complex is going to be just under $1 million. And the vestibule is right about $1.5 million. So even with the dollar rate, we'll probably have to make some decisions on what those structures look like, because we're not going to generate enough funds to do this those things they just find them.
Thank you, that's kind of my concern, is are we talking doing all these projects or just doing certain work?
We can do most of them, and we can do all of them if we pair someone.
But another thing,
Yeah.
and go up. If the community, we can have $1.20. But that is feasible also.
Because the district would have to do a really good job of explaining what people would get off the return on investment and why is that investment that the community wants to invest in. That's a price. Hold on just a second. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for calling really, helpful and you explained it really well. Two questions, one, elementary complex here.
Great question, yeah. So one of the beauties of Hawaii, you've got a lot of property, but when you're talking about building a structure this big, it limits your area. Right now, we're looking right in front of the school. And the 2-level building would be on the far side, so you'd actually enter the lower level from right by the bus barn, would be a driveway with parking lot there. And then the gym would run in front of the school.
Well, and then, well, do that be just up in buildings or also in the whole game? I know that, like, I don't care if I'm children, there's no playground. So that's still.
Absolutely. Yeah, so when we talk about the safety and the single entry vestibule, that would be during the school day. Campus would still, it's still a community facility that they have to the community hours, school hours. This,
And the bond. Have they been to our facility?
Yes.
They
they have been here, I mean, several, so it's independent architect, sure. They're out of PG, they did 3 or 4 site visits, they went to throughout all of our facilities. They talked to our staff, we did our students, and that's the data they used to generate that. But they were on campus. Okay. And pass those out. All right, well, what I would like you to do now is if you can kind of rearrange your tables where you can talk amongst yourselves. I have those projects on a sheet of paper. And on that sheet of paper, it talks about pros, cons. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. No, I'm not. If you could write those down, I want to collect those because my goal is to take all of your comments and ideas, pull them into one article. And at our next meeting, I'll share that, share that before then. I also, there's a blank document, if you have any new ideas you want to put on it. We are gonna do a soft start, a soft stop at 7:30. And then we're gonna go informal from 7:30 to 8. And hard and kicking you out of the gym at 8 o'clock.
What are they doing right now?
I'm talking about
Hanging out with the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Soft start, we're gonna adjourn the meeting. Before I adjourn the meeting, I want to give a shout out and recognition to my bosses. Not stupid. Special thanks to our board who puts in countless hours. I know they get paid a lot of money to do that. They don't get paid any money, it's all volunteer. But really appreciate their effort. So I'm gonna start in the back, Janet Holland. Thank you very much, Janet. Dan Metz. Don Quimby. And Sharon Adler. And Sharon, you have the mic.
All right, folks, thank you so much for participating and we want all your ideas. I know that our table has generated some very interesting ideas, so. I think that we're gonna do a hard close at 8 o'clock, right, of the building, but we're gonna go ahead and adjourn this meeting right now. So thank you.